Welcome to the Secrets We Keep podcast, where silence ends and healing begins. First, we're going to do some housekeeping. I want to remind you that this podcast is for reflection only and conversation. It's not therapy, diagnosis, or emergency support. If you find yourself being in immediate danger or you need urgent help, please contact emergency services, a crisis line, or a trusted local resource. This episode discusses physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, childhood trauma, unhealthy relationship patterns, self worth, and the painful beliefs many people learn about love long before they ever have words for it. Please take care of yourself while listening. Pause if you need to, step away if you need to, come back when you are ready. What did love teach you before you ever had the words to question it? That is the question I want to sit with today. Because, I think one of the hardest things to admit is that many of us learned about love long before we were old enough to understand what we were being taught. We learned it by watching, we learned it by listening, we learned it by surviving, we learned it in the homes we grew up in the relationships around us, in the silences we sat in, and in the things nobody explained. And the problem is, not everything we learned was healthy. Some of us learned that love means sacrifice, no matter the cost. Some of us learned that love means silence. Some of us learned that love means endurance. Some of us learned that love means staying. Some of us learned that love means forgiving over and over without accountability. Some of us learned that love means accepting crumbs and calling them enough. Some of us learned that love means proving our worth by how much pain we can carry. And those are lies. But when you learn those lies early enough, they do not feel like lies. They feel normal. They feel familiar. They feel true. That is what makes them so dangerous. For me, I learned early that love did not always feel soft. It did not always feel safe. It did not always feel steady. I learned that love could live in the same house as chaos. I learned that love could come with loud voices, fear, unpredictability, and emotional absence. I learned what it meant to want love and not know how to reach it. I learned what it meant to long for love while also feeling rejected by it. And when those are the early lessons that do not stay in childhood, they follow you. They follow you into dating, they follow you into marriage, they follow you into friendship, they follow you into what you tolerate, they follow in you into how quickly you excuse red flags. They follow you into how long you stay where you are not safe, not respected, not seen, and definitely not loved well. Because what you learn early has a way of becoming your emotional blueprint. And if nobody interrupts that blueprint, you start living from it. You may not even realize it, but you do. You start believing things like, if I love hard enough, they'll change. If I'm patient enough, things will get better. If I stay quiet, maybe there will be peace. If I sacrifice enough, maybe I'll finally be chosen. If I endure enough, maybe this is what real love looks like. If it hurts, maybe that's just part of it. But love was never supposed to cost you your voice. Love was never supposed to make you disappear. Love was never supposed to teach you to be silent in order to stay connected. Love was never supposed to make you earn safety, beg for consistency, or question your worth. And I think a lot of people are still untangling that. They still trying to figure out where the lie began. Was it in childhood? Hmm. Was it in what they watched between their parents? Was it when, I don't know, what was excused in the family? Was it in the message that you stay no matter what? Was it in the idea that being a good woman means enduring, or even a good man? What it is, I don't know. I think maybe what we heard, like that's just how men are, or that's just how relationships are, or nobody's perfect. Those messages matter because little by little, they shape what you normalize. And once something becomes normalized, it gets harder to challenge. You stop saying this is unhealthy. You start saying this is just how it is. You stop saying this hurts me. You start saying maybe I'm too sensitive. You stop saying I deserve better. You start saying maybe I'm asking for too much. That is the danger of the lies we learn about love. They do not always show up loudly. Sometimes they show up in a quiet compromise that keep costing you pieces of yourself. They show up when you stay too long. They show up when you excuse things that frighten you. They show up when you confuse attention with care. They show up when you accept control because it feels like protection. They show up when peace feels boring and chaos feels familiar. And for many people, those lies are tied directly to worthiness. If you grew up feeling unseen, rejected, unwanted, or emotionally neglected, you may begin to believe that love is something you have to earn. You may think being chosen means more than being safe. You may think staying wanted matters more than being treated well. You may think if someone keeps coming back, even in broken ways, that must mean something. But love is not supposed to leave you starving for basic care. Love is not supposed to make you question whether you matter. Love is not supposed to punish you for having needs. Love is not supposed to reward your silence and call it maturity. Love is not supposed to ask you to abandon yourself just to keep the relationship alive. That is not love. That is survival. That's fear. That's conditioning. That is wounded attachment. And that is the lie. And when I say the lies we learn about love, I'm not saying people are stupid for believing them. I'm saying a lot of us inherited things we never asked for. We inherited dysfunction, we inherited silence, we inherited generational pain, we inherited beliefs that were passed down before anyone questioned whether they were healthy. You know, some people inherited the idea that you keep family business inside the home no matter what. Some inherited the idea that women are supposed to carry more, forgive more, endure more, and ask for less. Some inherited the idea that being alone is worse than being mistreated. Some inherited the idea that marriage itself matters more than the quality of what is happening inside it. And if those are the lessons, then healing is not just emotional. Healing is educational, healing is spiritual, healing is unlearning, healing is telling the truth where silence used to be. Because healing often begins when you can finally say, that was not love, that was fear, that was chaos, that was control, that was inconsistency, that was manipulation, that was me trying to survive inside something I had been taught to call love. The kind of truth can be painful because once you tell the truth, you also have to grieve. You have to grieve what you thought love was. You have to grieve what you accepted. You have to grieve what you hoped for. You have to grieve how long you blamed yourself for not being able to make broken love feel whole. But grief is part of healing too, because once the lie is exposed, it loses some of its power. You stop worshiping endurance. You stop calling silence strength. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop confusing pain with passion. You stop thinking love has to be hard to be real. And maybe that is where freedom begins, in truth, in saying, love was never supposed to humiliate me. Love was never supposed to make me afraid. Love was never supposed to require me to betray myself. Love was never supposed to leave me more wounded than whole. Now, I want to say something more personal because this is where these lies shaped my own life. I believe part of why I married the man I married was because of what my upbringing had already taught me. I had been shaped by chaos. I had been shaped by fear. I had been shaped by rejection. I had been shaped by unpredictability. And when those things shape you early, they do not just go away because you get older. You start choosing from those wounds. And sometimes you choose what feels familiar, even when it's harmful. I think that is part of why I let the caring man go. The safe man, the compassionate man, the gentle man, the one who would have cared, helped, built, listened, and grown with me. I let him go. I think about that. I can't even tell you how many times. And that is painful to say out loud because at the time, I did not know how to receive that kind of love. I didn't know how to trust it. I didn't know how to rest in it. I didn't know how to believe it was real. It felt foreign to me. And what feels foreign can feel frightening when all you have known is chaos. So instead of moving toward what was safe, I moved toward what was familiar. That is what the wrong lessons about love can do. They can make you reject peace because you do not recognize it. They can make you hold on to chaos because at least you know how to function there. And I think for a long time, I really believed love was a game, not a safe place, not a refuge, not a partnership, a game. A game of being chosen, a game of being wanted, a game of trying to win somebody's attention, a game of trying not to lose, a game of trying to make someone finally love you the way you always needed to be loved. And underneath all of that, I do not think I had many real feelings left for a long time, not in a healthy sense. I think I had numbness. I think I had survival. I think I had longing. I think I had emptiness. I think I had confusion. Because when you grow up feeling like people want your body, but not your mind, your presence, but not your depth, your beauty, but not your soul, it does something to you. It makes you feel like you do not belong anywhere. It makes you feel like you are good enough to be used, but not good enough to be cherished, good enough to be looked at, but not listened to, good enough to be desired, but not deeply known. And that kind of emptiness can make you careless. Careless with your body, careless with your time, careless with your heart, careless because somewhere inside, you're still trying to answer a wound that was created long before the relationship ever began. They were rooted in pain, in wanting, in needing, in trying to find in other people what had never been built securely in me. And that is what I want people to understand. When we talk about the lies we learn about love, we're not talking about something small. We're talking about lessons that can shape who you marry, who you trust, who you walk away from, who you chase, who you let hurt you, what you accept, what you call normal, what you call love. And eventually, for me, having a child changed something. I'm not going to go all the way into that today because that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I will say this, having a child eventually helped save me. Because there are times in life when you cannot yet see your own worth clearly, but suddenly you can see what you do not want repeated in your child's life. And that matters. The kind of love can wake something up in you. Not always right away, not perfectly, but powerfully. And I think that is why this conversation matters so much. Because so many people are still living from old lessons. So many people are still loving from wounds. So many people are still calling things love that were never love at all. So maybe the question for this episode is not just what did love teach you? Maybe the question is, what did love teach you that you now need to unlearn? Do you need to unlearn silence? Do you need to unlearn endurance? Do you need to unlearn the belief that being chosen matters more than being safe? Do you need to unlearn the idea that instability is passion? Do you need to unlearn the belief that love must always cost you something deep and painful? Because a lot of healing is not about finding something new. A lot of healing is about releasing what was never supposed to stay. And that takes honesty. It takes courage. You know, it takes courage to say, I was taught wrong. I normalized what hurt me. I called things love that were never love at all. I stayed because I believed something that was not true. I accepted less because I did not yet know what healthy love looked like. And believe me, That is not weakness, that is awakening. And if you are there, if you are in that place where you are starting to question what you were taught, starting to examine what you accepted, starting to tell the truth about what love was never supposed to be, I want to say this, and I want to say this to you clearly. That is healing. Messy healing, painful healing, deep healing, but it's healing all the same. And you deserve that. You deserve love that does not require silence. You deserve love that does not reward your suffering. You deserve love that does not use fear as glue. You deserve love that feels like safety, honesty, steadiness, respect, and peace. And if you were never shown that early, that does not mean you cannot learn it now. So let's reflect on a few things, just a few questions. What did love teach me before I had the words to question it? What unhealthy beliefs about love, sacrifice, silence, endurance, or worthiness did I inherit? Have I ever confused suffering with loyalty or silence with strength? Did I learn to accept less because it felt familiar? Have I ever mistaken chaos, control, or inconsistency for love? What truth about love am I finally ready to face? And what do I need to unlearn in order to heal? What would love look like if it felt safe, steady, and honest? Thank you for spending this time with me today. This is the Secrets We Keep podcast, where silence ends and healing begins. As always, protect your peace, speak your truth, and keep choosing healing.